Hello everyone and welcome back to The Strategic Feminine. Here I'm going to be talking about why they want to see you naked. Before we get started, I wanted to give the women a trigger warning. There will be mention of SA. There also will be mention of sexual traumas, and I don't want to put any of you guys' mental health in jeopardy just to support this channel. It's okay. Clock out, log out. We will catch you on the next video where it'll be a much lighter topic, I promise. But I just wanted to give that brief disclaimer before I had anyone, going further and watching this video. I do not want any of you guys to suffer mentally or otherwise. I do want to be able to give a little bit of context to what I'll be talking about here on my channel, and then just my own personal beliefs as well, because it is me personally making this channel. I am not planning on getting any capital gains from this channel at the moment. I am not planning on starting any Discords or Patreons. This is not the goal here. The goal is to truly spread as much wisdom as I learned throughout my youngest years and even still learning to this day, and hopefully be able to influence and help a large generation of women to do better than even I have. So when I say why they want to see you naked, a disclaimer, I do not want to shame or crucify anybody for being a sex worker. You have to get it how you live, just like I have to get it how I live. You got bills, I got bills. There will be no judgment here. However, it will be completely dishonest and disingenuous of me to put these same women on a pedestal. When I was speaking about Ice Spice, in my last video, I basically said she was twerking and she was doing all type of stuff and she was naked to sell her music. And that is true. And some people may not see nothing wrong with that. It is a cry for attention and acceptance most times. And a lot of people will say when you are fully, when we can see your body or you're not fully clothed. And I'm not saying you gotta dress like a potato sack. Sometimes I'll put on a crop top or two, but I always live by the, if I have super shorts on, I'm covering all my top. Or if I have a crop top, then I'm wearing like pants. Layering your clothes is also another fashion technique that can help with still wearing your pieces, but still leaving a little bit to the imagination, covering up for the most part. I didn't mention it earlier, but layering your clothes is also another way that I like to style my clothing. And I remember in school, y'all, because I was always tying my clothes up in the back to make it look like a crop top. The staff would always say, leave a little something to the imagination. They would always say that. Leave a little something to the imagination. And I never understood what that meant. When you show your body, you're also showing everyone around you the amount of access that you're willing to give people for free. And that completely blew my mind, because you would wonder, like, why am I always attracting these dudes? Why am I always attracting this attention? And sometimes, not always, but in some cases, it can be by how you are dressed. You're also going to be very vulnerable to jealousy, especially around like the feminine energy. When you are advertising the goods or you just have a desired shape and then like you're not afraid of it, yeah, it's low-hanging fruit for jealous attacks and envious attacks. It is unfortunate, but it is something that I have observed. If you're always showing every part of your body, that is sending dog whistles to everyone around you that you are available and that you're accessible and that it doesn't take anything for you to be seen in that way, because you're basically dressing yourself like that for free. So imagine what it would take for them to get you naked. And that's how a lot of people think, especially people who want to get into your pants. That's how they're going to think. That's how they're going to play it. They're not going to tell you that specifically, but I remember I was showing pictures of myself, of like my past self, in my outfits, the outfits I used to wear. And this coworker of mine, he said, "Oh yeah, you looked ready. You looked right." It was weird because it was like, I'm right here, first off, so kind of disrespectful, but also didn't have that same thought process towards me today because of how I dressed and how I cover up for the most part. Prior to this conversation, he only used adjectives like, you're so cute, you're so adorable, something you would describe a bunny as. He never used sexual words to describe me. It blew my mind. I'm telling you, it blew my mind. And I don't mean to be misogynistic. This has nothing to do with keeping men from, being tempted by you. It has nothing to do with that at all. It should have everything to do with you being able or being willing to and honoring yourself as well. So many times here, especially in the new age, here on Instagram, we see all these women in their bikini pictures, and they are naked for the most part. They're showing so much of their assets. Want to follow in their footsteps or somewhat emulate what they have going on to get some of the success that they have going on. I'm also going to talk about why we want to be naked, and that all starts with the spirit of rejection. The spirit of rejection is of course, spirit that gives a person who is plagued by it the feeling of being unwanted, unloved, unable to fit in, and unworthy of any reverence or protection as a human. And when you have that spirit of rejection, you may start to compensate by people pleasing. You also may do things that will get you more attention, such as showing more of your body to get validation. And you will do things to feel the love that you feel like you don't have. There's a lot of videos where a lot of young girls are styling these outfits, and they're like basic and baddie. So now the basic is when you're not really showing too much skin, and then the baddie is when everything's all out and all open and everywhere. These aren't sex workers. These are women following behind the sex workers or following behind the rappers and trendsetters of our generation. Sukihana, she also was another Black woman who is on OnlyFans, and she had 2 viral videos. One where she threw up on the D, and another one where she was peeing on the, on it, to, make her money. And anytime anyone has called her out about that or said anything about that, she'd be like, all my bills is paid. I made $1 million. What you gonna tell me? I made $1 million. And I'm just like, for your body, $1 million was worth your body. And it's not just mental and emotional health that is on the line. There's spiritual health attached to this as well. There are souls that are being battled with every day due to this type of behavior. I know you guys remember when Sukihana was at an event and someone was forcibly trying to kiss her, and she moved. She moved away. She didn't want to kiss. Everybody watched. No one stopped, said, hey, back up. No one did that. You want to know why? It's because of how Sukihana advertised herself prior to even showing up at that event. So men, they automatically assumed, oh, she ready, she right. And we're also going to focus on the biggest reason. Sukihana be having her tongue out of her mouth. She be on the floor. She be doing a lot of stuff. But she's an educated woman. She's smart. She's not a bimbo. She likes to, I was in special ed. I was in special ed. Yes, she was, but she's not dumb. She can articulate herself very well. Sexy Red. She talked about, she didn't really get a chance to talk about it because Little Yachty kind of cut that conversation off real quick. But she talked about how she was SA'd before and how that was crazy experience for her, but no one wanted to hear that. A lot of times there is SA involved. A lot of times there is domestic violence involved. There's a lot of desperation that happens with those women, or they're easily impressionable and were talked into a lifestyle that they cannot walk out of because they based a lot of their lifestyle around it. And it's also very dangerous to live a life like that, especially for sex workers. It is extremely dangerous for them. And that's another thing that they won't necessarily outright tell you, that they have to be very protective of themselves because no one else is going to protect them unless they have someone who feels like they are belonged to them or their property. And then at that point, someone's going to protect you, but it's not because they care about you as a human being. They care about you because you are their asset that helps them make more money. A lot of these women, they're going through that battle within themselves where they're making money, but they know that they're only being used as an object, but they know that there is nothing else that they really can do, or they feel as though there's nothing else they can do to make the same amount of money or keep up with their lifestyle. They want to see you naked because it gives them the justification to treat you as though you're less than human. It gives them all the right to feel as though you are not worthy of safety, protection, or provision, or being provided for. Because how many times have we heard where something bad happens to a woman, God forbid, of course, but we have to be honest. Something horrible happens to a woman, and there's someone, some raggedy someone in the comments talking about what their lifestyle was prior to. In the courtroom, talking about their lifestyle and how maybe it wasn't what we thought it was, and they're not a perfect victim, so they shouldn't deserve protection. It makes you more of a low-hanging fruit to predators as well. That's another thing that they won't tell you. A lot of sex workers, they deal with a lot of predators on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of them is their clientele. These people who are violent, they are evil and wicked, and they are using you as for an outlet for their true desires. And because you are available based off of currency, having access to you regardless. I remember seeing, I think it was a Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts, but she was playing the Pretty Woman, and she was on payroll. And I remember, and this was like a really powerful line for me. She said, "I'm what you would call a sure thing, a human being, being referred to as a sure thing." Let that sizzle in your spirit, y'all, because that is deep. That is extremely deep. And I noticed when I was also falling behind, these BBL influencers and also wanting to keep up with these women, I had a lot of attention. I was getting a lot of attention. I was getting lots more support. I had a lot more followers, and I was having a lot more friends. And then as soon as I turned away from that, or I didn't want to do it anymore, or I felt as though I was embarrassed by my own actions, that is when a lot of that support dwindled. That is when a lot of that care dwindled, because it's not truly care, it's lust. And a lot of that lust can destroy your self-worth system as a woman. Like, that can destroy anyone's self-worth system when you feel like you're only good for one thing. And that one thing has to do with your ability to provide pleasure to another person. So a lot of these women, they're not going to tell you that, but that is the truth. That's why they want to see you naked. They want to have access to you. And the scope of how naked you are, or how much you're willing to show for free, is a pretty good indicator of how much you're willing to give for something that seems beneficial. When that Home Depot woman went viral because she was so beautiful, right? People wanted to see her get her OnlyFans. They're like, "Why are you working at Home Depot? You could capitalize off your looks." Men were commenting and DMing her, talking about, let me show you a good time, aka let me, go ahead, fly you out. I'll give you a couple bands, some stacks, and let me, do what I want with you. And she said, no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm a Christian woman. I don't even have those values. I'm not going down that pathway. I don't even do that. Then all of a sudden, she won't viral no more. No one agreed. Then all of a sudden, they was like, "Oh, man, get this girl out." They was throwing tomatoes at the lady in the comments, because it's not a popular thing to be righteous in that way. Someone was like, "Oh, well, I'll do it. I'll get naked." She don't want to do it. "I'll get naked. Y'all can fly, Shaq, you can fly me out." If she not trying to do it, she whack. She a little girl with it. Let me go ahead. I'll get flied out. Y'all see how crazy that is? That lady gained all that followers based off of her looks. And y'all wanted to, suggest that she should do something degrading, when she said, "No, that's not what I believe in. That goes actually against my beliefs in every way, shape, and facet." Then she started receiving backlash. Then people unfollowed her and didn't want to hear that God stuff no more. So that's another thing I wanted to bring up too. There are a lot of women who are dedicated to recruiting other young girls into their lifestyle. I want a lot of women to be aware of that fact as well. There are women who are dedicated to recruiting you and to be a sex worker, if not under them, like them in general. And they're doing that because a lot of them are jealous, and they see themselves as that young woman, and they want to destroy their lives just as they have destroyed their own life. If you guys watch The Player Club, which I just watched The Player Club, she wanted to strip, I'll keep you safe. I'll make sure you're good. I'll make sure you got money. And the next thing you do, that woman had set her up to be SA'd. And it's unfortunate, but of course, that's just a movie. Is real life experiences that happen all the time. So beware of women who are super, accepting of that lifestyle, and anyone who is willing to see you compromise or degrade yourself for their own gain or for, quick pleasure is not somebody that has your interests at heart. It's not somebody that has your safety at heart. And it's not someone who will care any little bit about your future goals and plans if they're not attached to it or benefiting from it. When I was 17 years old, I was being ambushed with strip talk and 304 talk content. And I had just started my TikTok account. So they can't say, oh, it's the algorithm, it's what you like to watch. No, they just showed it to me. And as a young girl, the glitz and the glam, the money, the nails, the hair, the style, I was enamored. And I was like, well, there's nothing that bad with that. But what they're not telling you is also the different spirits that are around you at that time that you are just an open portal for, because you're available. I mean, simple as that. You're available. When you are in that lifestyle, you are available. You are available for a fee, but you are available nonetheless. And if you are in these environments where these spirits tend to linger, the spirit of lust being one of them, it's easy for you to be taken advantage of in those moments. And of course, I say this in support of all women. It's just not the best thing for us as young girls to pedestalize. So when I said what I said about Ice Spice, it's not to call her out for anything other than that is not something that we should be aiming for as a society or as women, period. That's not something that we should be aiming for. That's not something that we should ever think is the goal. But they didn't decide to be a sex worker overnight. A lot of women, they're underprivileged, they're underprotected, and they fell into that lifestyle and see no way out. You have some women, they don't want to work the regular 9 to 5. They don't want to start at McDonald's. They don't want to start at 7-Eleven as a cashier. So they tend to not. Another thing, they want to see you naked because it justifies them being able to treat you any type of way. Well, you got this link in your bio, so you don't need no date. You just need this quick little, and you just, So there are women who will try to recruit you, and there are men that will try to take advantage of you based off of what you do for work. Those women do not fall into any of the other categories with trauma being involved. There are competing with the other women who happen to be in their industry. They want to be the baddest. And in today's age, they're not showing any of the covered baddies. Like, I don't see any. Now, you can go into the niches, but when we talk about mainstream, I don't see any covered baddies. And that is conditioning for people and propaganda for people when you see that in the media consistently. And I mean consistently. All of our singers, all of our artists, all of our movie stars, you're not supposed to idolize anyone. You look at these people, you learn, you move on. You realize that they're human beings, they make mistakes, and you go on from there. But yeah, a lot of these women, they're competing with the other girls. And that's what they'll do to go ahead and compete. They want to sell their products. They want to get those likes. And they see that that's the only thing that people are paying attention to. SZA was literally naked in one of her music. I mean, genuinely naked. She was covered by ropes. It was porn at that point. That's not necessary. It's never that necessary. A lot of this comes from the spirit of rejection. There's also a lot of comparisons that go on with the spirit of rejection. There's a lot of isolation and groups of people not willing to fool with you. And the spirit of rejection can also be seen in these women who are completely naked. Even them super sheer bodycons that y'all like to wear. Okay, they're cute sometimes, but we can also dress those up a bit. We can add a shawl or two. Sexy Red was SA'd. She said it herself. And that explains a little bit more of why she's able to be out in the open the way that she is. Because even in high school, there were a lot of girls who, were fast, of course. And the number one thing they always said was that there was somebody at their home who wasn't protecting them and that they were scenarios where their innocence wasn't protected. They always said that. Hypersexual is just the symptom of other mental illnesses that can occur when you are defiled in that way. It's a very real thing, and we should talk about it more as women. We really should, because we like to hype these women up and not be a true village to them. A lot of these women, they're crying for help. And they decided that, well, if nobody thought I was worth protecting here in this scenario, then might as well get some money off of it. I'm already broken. I'm already damaged. Why not? I don't care anything about that anyway. At least I can stay okay to having this done to me.
Came hand in hand. Because when you're a stripper, you got to know how to have a mouthpiece.
So what got you doing that? What got you, like...
Dancing? Mm-hmm. When I got out the Navy, I was dancing while I was in the Navy. Like, I got raped when I was in the Navy. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to let this man taking something from me that's already been taken.
How did it feel to find out that Aladria had been through the same unfortunate thing that you've been through?
It's all right, Z.
It's okay, baby.
You can't let what you go through define who you are as a person, as an individual.
You know, I'm lost. I'm damaged goods, and I'm just trying to find myself. I'm just trying to be
perfect. We're not perfect.
I'm not. I'm just trying. Like,
nobody's perfect.
But when you have someone on top of you taking your soul, it changes you. It really does.
If you happen to be a woman who is either teeter-tottering the line, you've been a part of that lifestyle and maybe you stopped, or you have seen women that are close to you be a part of that lifestyle, you can tell the damage that has took place in those women's lives. And of course, I'm always going to focus on solutions on this channel. If you happen to be a woman who is falling into this lifestyle that I have just named, there are things you can do. The first thing I constantly hear is, I don't think I'll be ever able to make the amount of money that I've made in this industry. I can't go. I have expenses. I have debts. I have things that I need to focus and work on that are monetary wise. And of course, your soul, your body, it's not worth any amount of money. So find great, there's other industries that you can look into. Hair and cosmetics being one of them. Of course, if you are a woman who happens to be in that industry, looks are extremely important. It's your whole selling point. So if you know how to do some hair, you know how to do some nails, some lashes, I would definitely look into starting your own business for that. Look into starting your own, even if it's in your kitchen, braiding hair, that's okay. As long as you're getting some money that's able to fund your lifestyle and get you comfortable in leaving. Another thing is to definitely prioritize mental health. Sometimes it's super dangerous for them to walk out of that lifestyle and then be a regular person on the street, because they may be a little bit more popular than maybe your regular. So definitely look into things, especially I'm going to say move. If you have to move. Get away from them, okay? Because there is 51 different states in America. There is different continents. There's different cities in each continent, different countries in each continent. You don't have to stay where you're not wanted. You don't have to stay where you don't want to stay. Move. I think I'm going to say move more than anything I say on this channel. Move. Get out of there. Because a lot of times, our hometown, they don't want to see us elevate past what we have been. There's always going to be a reminder. Oh, well, you used to be, and you used to do, and you used to act, and how you used to post. So why do you think you should be better? Or why do you think you should give advice? Or why do you think, and what they're not realizing is I've grown past that, and I'm trying to stop anyone else from having to go through the pain that I went through. But some people, they're not going to understand that. Your hometown is definitely not going to always understand that. So definitely, if you need to, move. If you feel unsafe, move. Another thing that is very good for women, let's say you happen to be in the music industry. Another thing you could do is go behind the scenes with it. You can start, DaBaby actually did this, he started directing his own music videos. So yeah, he's a rapper, but he also has amazing visuals for a lot of his videos. And he started to use those to direct music videos for other rappers. even though he is not a sex worker, that is very much something that you can do. You already have the platform, you already have the skills, and you're able to make money and do something that isn't degrading. So let's say the baby never wanted to rap again. He felt bad about the cuss words and then the killings and all the stuff that he was portraying in his music. He has skills necessary to be like, you know what? All I gotta do, I'm gonna direct creative music videos, and that's how I'm gonna make my money, and that's how I'm gonna fund my lifestyle, and that's how I'm gonna feed my kids. And he's still using the experience that he used during his rap. But let's say he didn't, then he would still be able to, fall back on other skills that he learned while rapping. So all that and then some. There's options out there. Don't ever feel like you don't have options. There's always gonna be options. There's always gonna be things to do. You're not gonna like how different this lifestyle is to how you're used to as human beings. We all hate change. So the best thing to do would be to genuinely find different resources, counselors, therapists, AA meetings, even if you happen to know someone who used to do what they do and they walked away from the lifestyle, that's also helpful because they completely understand where you're coming from and they also know a little bit better how it feels to be you right now. So they'd be able to provide a lot of insight as well. Moving yourself from that environment entirely. If you gotta move, move. If you have to delete your Instagram, delete it. Because there are going to be people who are going to question your change and your transformation. They're going to be like, well, you used to do this. And what makes you think that you deserve to be anything other than? I mean, you were doing this for so long. And that's not necessarily true. Now, if you're happy and completely content in where you're at, then that's great. Then don't listen to anything that I've said in this video. Then this doesn't apply to you. But if you happen to want to switch it up, you want to change, you're not interested, you felt dull for a while, you felt stripped for a long time, this is perfect. Cut those off, no explanation is needed. Anyone who expects that from you going further and doesn't completely understand why you're changing and support your transformation doesn't deserve to be around in your journey. And the shame. The shame is something that is going to need professional help to get past. It sucks. It is a feeling of unworthiness. It is a feeling of, it's a really grimy, dirty feeling. To feel shameful for some of your actions, and it happens. So the best thing to do is to work through that. Even religious avenues are of help to people. I would definitely recommend. There's a story in the Bible where it's a woman and she was, I guess, caught doing something sexually immoral, and they were beginning to stone her. And Jesus saw, and he said, what are you doing? What are y'all trying to do here? And they're like, this is what she was doing. She was being sexually immoral. We have to stone her, right? And they looked at Jesus for answers, and he said, well, he who has not sinned, cast the first stone. And they all put their stones down and walked away because everyone has made mistakes. What was more powerful than everyone making mistakes and putting their stones down? The one person who is Jesus, who has not sinned, he lived a perfect life, didn't throw a stone at her at all. He said, go on and sin no more. But you still deserve to live and be free. So yes, I would definitely recommend also getting closer to your religious higher power. That's helped me a lot in this journey to be able to get closest to the one who sees my true worth and sees my true potential and doesn't pervert it for their own gain. He sees me as a beautiful human being with light, love, and teachings to share for everyone. If you are a woman, if you are an artist, take control, but take true control of your image and of your protection. Someone should earn being able to see you naked. That is a privilege, not a right. That is a privilege. And sometimes as women, we don't know our worth until it's too late. But I'm here to tell you your worth prior to it being too late. That's what this video is going to serve as. No one wants to judge anyone, but at the same time, we have to tell the truth. We have to be honest. We have to be honest. Because if those women felt like their music was so great, they wouldn't have any reason to show their body. I just overall want to say that be vigilant out here, be careful, and remain intentional in all things. So be very, very particular about where you are placed, what category you are placed in, how you are going to be perceived. So when it comes down to clothing, when it comes down to looks and aesthetics, just understand that it has a deeper impact on a lot of areas in a woman's life outside of, relationships and how men are willing to treat you, because that doesn't matter. I'm not trying to go all colonial with it. Women can do what they choose to, and we have the right to do so. But all things are not beneficial. That's the simple truth of the matter. And we want to do and promote things on this channel that are going to remain beneficial to the women. You want to be able to rest in what you've been able to accomplish here on this earth. And some people are not going to have the privilege to do so. And there is going to be no judgment. I do not want to hear anyone in the comments judging. I do not want to hear anyone in the comments feeling like they're better than or they're less than. It's a part of life. It happens. But it's also something that is a real topic that we can speak about. And it's also going to be a taboo experience that we can learn from. And it's also going to be very important to be truthful about everything that revolves around sexuality and sensuality and then currency and money. And they're willing to pay top dollar to see women degrade themselves in this day and age. Top dollar. Have you guys ever wondered or, come to a reason, how come we never see any women in this industry or in these industries who don't show their body, who want to keep it covered up? How come they aren't getting the same amount of followers and subscribers and revenue? Why don't they ever push those women as equally as the others? And it depends particular demographic we're talking about, because some demographics have no problem with that, but we know the demographics we're talking about that seem to just can't get off of sexuality. I don't want any young girls being like, no one ever told me, because here's the thing too, what a lot of these women aren't going to say, but it's the truth, that a lot of the stuff that they've done or that they have allowed to be done to them, they push back into the deepest part of their memory. They don't recollect on it too often. They don't like to. When they do recollect on it, they feel horrible. They're ashamed. Why you see a lot of these women drunk and drugged out and doing a whole lot of different substances to ease their mind, because when they think about the stuff that they allowed to happen to them, or the stuff that they allow to be done to them, or how they allow themselves to be photographed, it's hurtful to think about that and be like, I was deceived to think that these parts of myself weren't valuable and shouldn't have been protected and covered. These areas of my body were just for everyone's amusement and entertainment and pleasure. But I'm going to tell the truth here on this platform. If y'all aren't going to do it, I'm going to do it. And we hype it up. And we hype her up. We hype these women up. Oh, we ready to be outside. When Megan Thee Stallion got shot, the first thing that they wanted to do in the courtroom was talk about the many different sexual partners that she had. And she spoke about how embarrassed she was. That's a real emotion. They wanted to use, well, she was out here doing this and this and that as a defense for why she got shot in the foot and was assaulted. But at the same point, they're not going to let their daughters run down the same path that they have. Same reason why Young Miami said, no, my daughter's going to be better than that. She's not going to be a city girl. No, because I might get peed on for a check, but I'm doing all of that so my daughter doesn't have to. That's the notion here. All of us women, we have one goal. That is to elevate to heights that we weren't initially included in. A lot of y'all made videos pertaining to the women of the rap sphere and how they're dressed, and y'all think they care? No. They don't care nothing about what you're talking about. Why? Their bills are paid. And it's not you women who are paying their bills, it's the men. They're going to continue to appeal to their audience. And you are not the audience. So why would they care? They never cared. They're going to continue to collect their millions and move on and pay their bills. So that is another reason why they want to see you naked. There's a market for it. There is a genuine market for it. If you wanted to go out and be on your Instagram and you wanted to rap, but you weren't really a good rapper, and you just wanted to show your booty and your butt and jiggle and jump everywhere, there's a market for that. And even if the music was trash, you would be able to skate past based off of, your pretty privilege, and then based off of your sexuality as well. It's an open market. There are always people who are recruiting for that type of promotion. I guess my hope is that women don't be super deceived. Now, there's no such thing as being a baddie without having the whole nine, and then the thong, and then just the stripper attire in general. A lot of these, they talk about the stripper to rapper pipeline. It's because those women, if you think about it, it makes sense. They're already used to performing in front of a large crowd. They are going to be a lot more thicker skinned, so they're not going to care too much about outside opinions. And they're already going to be willing to sell sex. So they have more going for them than maybe a regular, I make good music girl. They're going to have to work with that little girl a little bit more to get her to actually produce revenue other than a stripper. Because a stripper already would know the businesses prior to even, signing a contract. She would just be willing to go corporate with it and have contracts on the table. So there is an agenda also being pushed here. There's an agenda. And there's lots of women who have made the decision and that they were regretful of the decision after the fact. And it's also having very bad effects on the society too. When there's such porn and stuff like that, and having super easy accessibility to sexual content, that has been a main contributor to the breakdown of families. The reason why a lot of these men don't feel like there's any reason for them to get married. They can get all of that stuff for free or for a fee. And a lot of these men are willing to pay. Don't get confused. A lot of these regular dudes, they're willing to pay to get them what they're interested in. But sometimes when they want it on a more consistent basis, then they'll go ahead and get a girlfriend. And that's why they want to see you naked. It is a man-headed industry. The music industry, the movie industry, it's headed by men. And that is what men are attracted to, and that is what men want to see. So that is why you're going to see a lot more of this nakedness going further. But as I said, and as I'm going to continue to let you guys know, if they aren't willing to have their nieces and their nephews and their daughters and their sons go down in that pathway, why should you hype them up? Why? I just want to thank all of you who listened to this video for bearing with me through this long-winded message. I really hope that it was able to open up a perspective to you and change your mind, start good dialogue in the comments. I will be back with another video here at The Strategic Feminine, so tune in, comment, and subscribe. And I just wish all of you the most blessed day, the most blessed eternity. Please take care of yourself, be good people to others, and spread the word.